Attunement of the Elements, or what we lovingly know as Bottom Tree Stormcaller, is the first subclass that I mained in Destiny 2, and it still remains one of my favorite builds to this day. With Charge with Light mods, you can get your super really fast, and it is simply a fun build. This and Top Tree Voidwalker are the two builds that I use the most. So why do I use Bottom Tree Stormcaller? Well, a lot of my PvP friends, they prefer Top Tree if they're going to go with what we call Palpatine or Tickle Fingers because of Ionic Blink. This allows you to chase after your enemies and catch up with them way faster so that you can maximize your super. However, in both PvP and PvE, I really enjoy the Arc Soul. This is one of my favorites. This is what some people call Arc Buddy after we saw a Shadowkeep developer live stream prior to that DLC being released. But Arc Soul is really fun, and not only that, a lot of my PvP friends actually really enjoy Arc Souls. Arc Souls torture people, and it's also entertaining to see them kill other little enemies throughout the solar system. You get the Arc Soul by putting down a healing or a damage rift. Electrostatic Surge allows your rift to last longer. It also charges faster when allies are near. Rising Storm is the electrocuting melee ability that recharges your super, grenade, and melee energy. One of the things I like about Top Tree Voidwalker, and I teach this to a lot of people who watch my live stream, is when you melee as Top Tree Voidwalker or Slova Bomb, that melee will give you significant recharge rate on your grenade. This melee recharges everything. Not completely, but it's definitely noticeable. Landfall. This is why I really like this super, and I take advantage of this in PvP as well. When I'm in Crucible, no matter the game mode, I'll try to lure my opponents by having them use their radar to push me. What I'll do is I'll hover above a door, and when they come through, I press my super button, and Landfall usually kills them. It also kills things that are very near to you. So on casting Storm Trance, fire a bolt of lightning into the ground, creating a devastating shockwave under you. This is fun and positively diabolical, as some people say. Pardon the really bad puns. I didn't come up with them. Lately, I've been using Storm Grenade. This is a lot of fun and it does a lot of damage. The reason why I started using this is because we were cheesing Atheon and Vogue when it first came out, before they fixed it. But it's still really good for boss damage. It does a lot of damage. Throw a grenade. I use this mostly because of Chaos Reach, but this has been a lot of fun both in PvP and PvE. I also really enjoy Pulse Grenade, and Arc Bolt Grenade is what I've typically used throughout the years. This is an excellent grenade that, while it chains bolts of lightnings to nearby enemies, so you'll get mobs of enemies with this. If you're in patrol zones and you're doing ad clearing, I highly recommend Arc Bolt Grenade. If you're going after bosses, Storm Grenade may be a better choice. These are typical, the Healing Rift and the Empowering Rift. These are up to you. I like having a Healing Rift because I do a lot of solo things and I take a lot of damage, and well, my allies like it too. If you have a lot of Warlocks on your team, having someone with an Empowering Rift can be really useful. When we were, again, cheesing Atheon, I did switch to an Empowering Rift to give me a little extra damage boost as I was cycling through all the different perks that we had. So this build revolves around getting your super as fast as possible. Never mind the weapons. Those are just placeholders. They're there for fun. With Stormcaller, I typically like to use like an auto rifle or an SMG in the first spot. I do use Sunshot a lot with this build, and then a really good machine gun. Weapons do not matter. Use what is right for the activity you're in. Crown of Tempests is a must for this. They've come out with other exotics that we could use, but you really notice it. This thing lengthens your super so much, and as a roaming super, having it last a long time for me it's definitely a top priority. If I'm looking for burst damage against a boss, I'm not going to use this tree. I'll go to Chaos Reach. This is more for ad clearing. This is a really good all-round ad clearing build. So Crown of Tempests, arc ability kills restore arc abilities, and I do believe this includes your super. The armor perk Conduction Times. Arc ability kills increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities and extends the duration of Storm Trance. As with almost all of my builds, I tend to use a solar helmet. For this one, if you're gonna, let's have a quick talk about these. I've gone in more in depth about general armor mods that increase your different armor stats in other builds. I can put a link to one of those videos below so you can check it out, and I think I might do a standalone video about that. I believe it's my Nezarec Sin video that goes over this in more detail. This is really up to you and your playstyle. I'm not going to go into the details of these right now. So, which particular mods you put on each armor piece really depends on the individual stat rolls of each armor piece. Like, not everything's going to have 19 or 29 resilience. You could have an armor piece with 2 resilience, but you've got high intellect, or if you're a recov person, you could have like 30 recov. So you may need to use, that stat increase somewhere else. So you're probably not going to use what I'm using. You can't control what your armor drops give you. They are what they are. With focused engrams and the seasonal content, you can get something with a higher drop, but let's say I get a 30 resilience armor piece, it could still roll as 45 total points, and everything else on there could be complete trash. I'll probably throw that away, because most of us are going to value probably about 3 different stats. I give preference to resilience, recovery, and intellect above all else, and then I fill in my discipline. And my mobility for a warlock, I generally like to keep it about 30. Again, I'm a PvE main, not a PvPer. Now, my PvP build, I think, does have like 50 or 60 mobility, but that's a different story. We can get into PvP builds in another video. The warlock melee is absolute trash. It serves its purpose. You usually have to shoot an enemy till its health gets down so you can actually get a melee kill. And we'll go over that a little bit better to how to maximize that. So if you rely on melee abilities to recharge your other abilities, and we do in this because of the bottom tree perks, there are armor mods that you can put on that will enhance that in case you don't actually secure a kill. We'll get into that. As I stated, I almost always go with the solar helmet. Why? Because of Ashes to Assets. Now, in this particular season, Ashes to Assets is offered in the seasonal artifacts, so you can put this on any helmet. But if you're trying to do a build that's going to be good for all seasons, not just this season, I do recommend starting with the solar helmet. Now, I'm taking advantage of this. I have 2 Ashes to Assets, and instead of the normal 3 points, the artifact mod is making me use only 1 point. So I'm saving 4 points. So if I needed to have like high recov on this, I could easily have the 4 extra points. No problem. For this particular build, I need strength because my strength is super low with the armor pieces I have. Usually what I'll run in a normal season when these are not artifact mods, and this is 3, is I'll do 1 Ashes to Assets, and then I'll use maybe a grenade launcher ammo finder. And if I do go into activities where I'm going to need my ammo finders, which is a lot of them, I'll go ahead and just put my ammo finder on. Now, some people rock ammo finders for everything they use. Like, oh my gosh, I can't use Ashes to Assets because I'm using an auto rifle and I'm using a grenade launcher. No. Here's what you do. You use an ammo finder only for your heavy weapon. That's it. Just your heavy weapon. If you are cycling through your weapons and using them all equally, the game will drop you ammo. If you're not getting ammo for a specific weapon, then you need to shoot a different weapon. It's really that simple. If you're using, say, a shotgun for PvE clear, you may want to go with lead from gold. I love lead from gold for shotguns. With snipers, so we're talking like specifically energy weapons now. With snipers, I don't really need lead from gold on a sniper. If there's not another perk that's good, I'll go with it. But I generally don't use snipers so heavily in most activities to where I need lead from gold. Like, the game will eventually give me green ammo. It's not gonna be stingy with that if I'm using everything else. If you're using 2 grenade launchers and a primary, then of course your heavy ammo finder, the grenade launcher finder that you use for your heavy grenade launcher is still going to also find grenade launcher ammo for your special. So you absolutely do not need an ammo finder for everything you're using. Remember that. Some people are really hard stuck on that. If you don't plan on using your heavy a lot, like if you're not soloing a lot of stuff with Anarchy, you're probably cycling between weapons a lot. You can use both of these slots for an ability armor mod. Do it. Try it. If it doesn't work, pop on an ammo finder. It's that easy. There are 3 armor pieces that I view as the most important for each of my builds because they have the best mods in the game. It's helmet, gauntlets, and the bond. So now we're moving on to the gauntlets. And again, the armor mod that you choose to use depends on what you value in your stats and what your RNG is. Impact reduction is one of my absolute favorites. So remember, in 2 of these Warlock builds, the Void one and the Stormcaller build, your melee will recharge abilities. So if you don't actually get the kill, impact reduction will make up for that. It'll also enhance it if you do get the kill. Causing damage, any damage with a melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown. Boom, that's exactly what we want. That's our intent. This is only on solar gauntlets. This is one of my favorite mods. Highly recommend. Because I use a lot of different mods, this is where all of your champion mods are. And of course, impact reduction is 3 points. And you're probably going to want to use a general armor mod. These are costly. So I chose to put my least costly charge with light mod on here. Taking charge probably has the lowest requirement for energy slots in this bar right here. It's only 3. So I've started putting taking charge in all my gauntlets. It used to be on my helmet. Now they're all on my gauntlets because I need these extra slots for these mods. This is a season artifact mod. You can tell because it's turquoise. Normally, if I had room, if I wasn't using a seasonal mod, if I wasn't using one of these, I would probably slap another impact induction on here. Or if I had a weapon that needed some reloading help, I would pop one of the reloaders on. I put preference for reloaders over dexterity. Dexterity isn't really a thing that I use. It's very rare that I use dexterity. And I honestly don't know many people who do use it these days. These gray mods, these are for all time. These are my all-time mods. For chest armor, now this is a tough one. I typically don't use energy converter on builds, and I do want to show you something here. So we have taking charge right there. We have firepower. Now, firepower requires you to have 1 stack of light in order for it to work. So if I throw a grenade, then I will get some of that grenade energy back. The only problem is if I don't have any stacks of light, that won't happen. Charged up gives me an extra stack of charge with light. And supercharged, if you've noticed, I've got them, they're the bottom mods on each of these. Supercharged gives me, 2 to 3 stacks? I don't know. You could max out at 5 stacks of charge with light if you have both supercharged and charged up on your armor set. The reason why I'm not using any other charge with light mods is because of energy converter, and this is why I do not use energy converter on most of my armor sets. This will use every single charge with light stack that you have. So if you get grenade kills, it'll use up all of those stacks and it'll put that energy into your super. So this is really useful for getting storm trance super fast. While charged with light, using your grenade attack grants you super energy, consuming all stacks of charge with light. The more stacks you have, the more energy you gain, up to a maximum of 50% of your super energy. This mod does impose a stat penalty when socketed in exchange for reduced energy costs. You will have 10 fewer discipline. That's not a big deal because we are using firepower. We do get the ability buff when we get melee. It's just because we're using bottom tree Stormcaller. And we have impact induction on our arms, which also gives us grenade energy. So we're making up for, honestly, all the mods we're using on our armor, they're giving us way more grenade energy than 10 discipline will ever give you. So I'm not too hung up on secondary stats like discipline. You can make up for discipline very easily by choosing the right tree, the right subclass, and using the right mods. This is a void armor mod, which is why we are using void armor. And these will vary depending on which energy type your armor is. And I typically go for sniper damage resistance and melee damage resistance. If I'm not doing a lot of close range stuff and I'm taking a lot of AoE damage, I'll switch over to concussive dampener to reduce incoming area of effect damage. These are pretty standard mods I use on everything. The leg armor, as I stated earlier, so we can get an extra 1 additional stack of charge with light. We're using charged up. It's only 2 slots. This is great because for my particular armor set, for my RNG, I added 10 intellect. So I'm up to 70. I bounce a lot between void and solar legs on my armor sets, depending on which of these mods I want to use. But what I really like about solar, if you're not committed to a void armor mod here, solar is amazing because with Innervation, you can reduce your grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. I use all masterworked weapons, so I'm always making orbs for myself. And if I'm playing in a fire team, we all generously use our supers and feed each other, so we're constantly picking up orbs of power. This is another one I really like. This is one everybody should be using, and there is a void version of it too. I forgot what it's called, but on the void version, it begins health regeneration. So if something shoots you after you pick up your orb of power, it will stop your health regeneration. But I do use that depending on my build. But recuperation is my favorite healing mod. Again, it's only on solar legs. Every time you pick up an orb of power, it replenishes health. This is incredibly useful, again, especially if you're soloing, your healing rift isn't up yet, whatever. It's amazing. And finally, on my Warlock bond, I almost always use solar bonds because of this guy right here, Bomber. I use double bombers unless I need to do this. What Bomber does, and I think now, ever since Beyond Light, they changed these. With Enhanced Bomber, double Enhanced Bomber, I used to get about 60% of my grenade energy back whenever I put down a rift. Now, I get about 40% if I have double Bomber on, maybe 20 if I'm doing one. I'm estimating here. And of course, Supercharged, because we are using that Void mod that takes away all of your stacks. We really want to maximize the benefit of that mod, so I want to have as many Charged with Light mods as possible. So we have Supercharged on this bond, which allows us to have 2 additional stacks of Charged with Light, up to a max of 5. With this armor build, we have 5. Really, you only ever need to use 1 Supercharged and 1 Charged up if you want to max out those Charged with Light stacks. A quick word, if you are using, for example, I'll use Breach and Clear in raids if someone else isn't using, and I do like Sundering Blast and Nightfalls. Instead of always having to redo your bond, have a backup bond. Like I have several bonds for different reasons or different builds depending on what I want to do. And you can see like this one here has Sundering Blast. This I'll just pop on for Nightfalls. This bond right here you can see has Breach and Clear, and this is what I'm going to put on if we're in a raid. Or if I'm soloing a lost sector or some other harder content that requires melting the boss, I'll use this with my Anarchy. For you lore nuts out there, mighty are they of the storm cloud thrones and quick to anger. But bounty is to those whom they love. The Crown of Tempests helmet. This is written that you may understand. The time of kings is long since gone from this world. Yes, their reign does linger. These shallow, frightened, aged men clinging to their grand illusions of relevance in a world that has long since passed them by. But their reign is a lie, a fleeting charade that will crumble beneath the weight of their greed. In the end, though they may conquer the lands and seas and the fragile flesh upon which they trample, their empires will collapse and their graves will beckon, and the crowns of old will find new heads to bear the weight of their power, and the strong will be made to suffer as their weakness is brought to light.